The cargo hold was dark and cold, pressed her thin body against the metal wall and tried to stop shaking. She had been alone for 19 days now. 19 days without food. 19 days without hope. She was a species that looked somewhat like tall insects mixed with humans. Her body was covered in hard plates that protected her like armor. She had 4 eyes that glowed soft amber when she was healthy. But now those eyes were dim. Her plates had lost their shine. She was starving to death, and she knew it. Was young, barely past her adolescent molt. In human years, she would be like a teenager. She was old enough to understand what had happened to her, but young enough to still feel the pain of betrayal. 3 weeks ago, everything had been normal. She had been traveling with her trading caravan on a large ship called the Wandering Fortune. Her people were merchants. They moved from station to station, buying and selling goods across the galaxy. Had been learning the trade from the elders. She had dreams of one day leading her own caravan. Then the raiders came. There were brutal pirates who showed no mercy. They attacked the Wandering Fortune without warning. The battle was short and terrible. Many died. The ship was badly damaged. When it was over, the survivors gathered in the main hall to count their losses. Food was the biggest problem. The raiders had taken most of the supplies. What remained was barely enough to keep half the crew alive until rescue came. The elders gathered to make a decision. Remembered that meeting with painful clarity. She had been sick for weeks before the attack. A spore infection had entered her lungs and made her weak. She could not work. She could not help repair the ship. She could only lie in her sleeping pod and try to heal. The elders looked at her with cold eyes. Among them, there was an ancient rule. When resources were limited, they went to those who could contribute. The weak were left behind. The sick were abandoned. This was how the species had survived for thousands of years. The hive came first, always. She cannot work, Elder had said, pointing at. She eats but gives nothing back. The math is simple. Had tried to protest. She had tried to explain that she was getting better, that she would be strong again soon. But no one listened. Her own mother stood in that meeting and said nothing. Her mother looked at the floor while the elders decided her daughter's fate. They put her in the cargo hold of an old freighter that was attached to the main ship. They gave her a water recycler and nothing else. Then they sealed the door. Had pounded on that door until her claws bled. She had screamed until her voice broke. Through the small window, she saw Elder watching her with no emotion on his face. "The hive survives," he said through the glass. "The individual perishes. This is the way. Do not hate us, child. This is simply how things are." Then they disconnected the freighter and left her to drift. For the first few days had hope. The freighter had an emergency beacon. Surely someone would come. Surely someone would hear the signal and rescue her. She searched every corner of the ship for food but found nothing. The cargo holds were empty. The previous crew had stripped the vessel clean. Days passed, no one came. Learned that the outer margins were not a place where rescue happened. This was lawless space, far from any government or police. Ships that drifted here were picked apart by salvagers who cared nothing for survivors. If anyone detected her beacon, they probably thought it was a trap. By the 10th day, her body began to shut down. They could survive longer without food than most species. Their bodies could slow down and enter a state like hibernation. But this only delayed death. It did not prevent it. Spent her days thinking about her life. She thought about her mother, who had abandoned her without a word. She thought about the elders, who had thrown her away like garbage. She thought about the cold logic of her people, and she felt something new growing in her heart. Anger. Her people talked about the hive as if it was something beautiful. They said that the hive was more important than any single member. They said that sacrifice for the hive was noble. But what kind of hive throws away its children? What kind of species abandons the sick instead of caring for them? Began to hate the teachings she had grown up with. She began to question everything she had been told. But she was too weak to do anything about it. She was too weak to even stand. On the 19th day, she crawled to the darkest corner of the cargo hold and curled into a ball. Her 4 eyes closed slowly. Her antennae folded against her head. She was ready for the final sleep, the hibernation that her body entered when death was close. Most never woke from this sleep. It was the body's last gift, a peaceful end to suffering. Thought her last thoughts. She was angry that she would die alone. She was sad that she would never see the stars again. She was bitter that her own people had done this to her, but mostly she was tired, so very tired. She let the darkness take her. She did not know how long she slept. Time had no meaning in the final hibernation, but something pulled her back. A sound, a terrible, loud sound that cut through the silence of the dead ship. The proximity alarm. His eyes opened slowly. The alarm was screaming. Red lights flashed in the darkness. Something was approaching the freighter. Something was coming. Hope tried to rise in her chest, but she pushed it down. Hope had hurt her too many times already. This was probably just salvagers coming to strip the ship. They would not care about her. They might even kill her if she was in the way. But still she lifted her head. Still, she watched the airlock door with her dim eyes. Still, some tiny part of her refused to give up. The airlock hissed. The door began to open. Light spilled into the cargo hold and saw a shape standing in the doorway. It was tall and strange. It had only 2 eyes. It wore a suit of some kind and carried a light in its hand. She had never seen a creature like this before. She did not know what it was or what it wanted. Fear mixed with desperate hope in her starving heart. The creature stepped forward, and its life was about to change forever. Sergeant Cole was not supposed to be in the outer margins. His mission had gone wrong 3 jumps ago, and now he was limping through dangerous space in a damaged ship with almost no supplies. His vessel was called the Patience, and it was a small scout ship built for 1 person. The engine was running at half power. The shields were barely working, and in his storage compartment there was only 1 ration pack left. 1 meal. That was all he had to survive on until he reached port, the nearest station. Had done the math many times. 41 hours to port. 1 ration pack contained enough calories to keep a human alive for about 2 days, but only if he did nothing. No exercise, no stress, no problems. If everything went perfectly, he would arrive at the station weak and shaking, but alive. But Cole had learned long ago that nothing ever went perfectly. He was 34 years old, a soldier in the United Earth Reconnaissance Corps. His job was to explore unknown regions of space and report back to Earth Command. It was dangerous work. He had almost died more times than he could count. But he kept doing it because he believed in something bigger than himself. He believed that humans had a duty to explore, to discover, to reach out into the darkness. And sometimes to help. The distress beacon appeared on his scanner as a faint blip, almost lost in the background noise of space. His ship's computer identified it as a standard emergency signal coming from a drifting freighter about 2 hours away. "Recommend ignoring the signal," the AI said in its calm voice. "The outer margins are known for pirate traps. Additionally, any course change will use fuel reserves and extend travel time to port." Stared at the blinking light on his screen. The AI was right. Protocol said to ignore distress signals in lawless space. Too many ships had been destroyed by following fake beacons into ambushes. The smart thing to do was keep flying toward safety. But Cole had never been very good at doing the smart thing. He thought about his childhood in the Detroit reclamation zone. After the water wars, large parts of the old cities had been destroyed. Grew up in the ruins, in a community of survivors who had nothing but each other. Food was scarce. Clean water was scarce. Everything was a struggle. He remembered being 12 years old and so hungry that he could not sleep. His mother had given him her portion every night for a week. She told him she was not hungry, that she had eaten earlier. But he knew she was lying. He watched her grow weaker each day while he grew stronger from the food she sacrificed. One day, a stranger came to their camp. He was an old man with a face and tired eyes. He saw sitting alone, thin and hollow-eyed. Without saying a word, the man reached into his bag and pulled out a meal bar. He placed it in his hands and walked away. Never learned the stranger's name. He never got the chance to say thank you, but that meal bar saved his life. And more than that, it taught him something important. It taught him that kindness was possible even in the darkest times. It taught him that strangers could choose to help each other for no reason, except that it was the right thing to do. Altering course, said to the AI. This action is inadvisable. Ration calculations indicate that any delay. I know what the calculations indicate. Turned his ship toward the distress beacon. The 2 hours passed slowly. He spent the time checking his equipment. He had a pistol with half a charge, a medical kit, and an environment suit that would protect him from the vacuum of space. Not much, but it would have to be enough. The freighter appeared on his as a dark shape against the stars. It was old and damaged, clearly abandoned for a long time. No lights, no power signatures, just a dead ship drifting in the void. But the distress beacon was still pulsing. Someone had activated it. Someone might still be alive. Docked his ship with the freighter's airlock. The connection was rough and the seals groaned in protest, but they held. He pulled on his environment suit, checked his pistol one more time and cycled the airlock. The inside of the freighter was like a tomb, cold and dark and silent. Turned on his helmet light and moved carefully through the corridors. Dust floated in the beam of his light. The walls were covered in strange writing that he did not recognize. He searched the ship room by room. The bridge was empty. The crew quarters were empty. Everything of value had been stripped away. He was starting to think that the beacon was just a malfunction, that there was no one here to save. Then he found the cargo hold. The door was sealed but not locked. Pushed it open and stepped inside. His light swept across the empty space and then he saw her. At first he thought it was just debris, a pile of something in the corner covered in dust. But then the pile moved. Then 4 eyes opened and reflected his light back at him. Froze, he had never seen a creature like this before. It was humanoid but covered in hard plates like armor. It had 4 eyes that glowed a dim amber color. Its limbs were thin and its body was curled into a tight ball. The creature hissed at him. It was not an aggressive sound. It was fear, pure and simple fear. Holstered his pistol and held up his empty hands. He did not know if this creature could understand him, but he hoped it could read body language. He was not a threat. He was not here to hurt it. He pulled out his medical scanner and ran a quick check. The results made his stomach drop. This creature was starving. Its body was shutting down from lack of food. Without help, it would be dead within hours. Looked at the creature. He looked at his medical kit. He thought about the 1 ration pack sitting in his ship. The math was simple and terrible. If he gave away his food, he would probably die. If he kept his food, this creature would definitely die. For Cole, there was only one choice. Watched the strange creature with terrified eyes. Her body was too weak to run, too weak to fight. All she could do was press herself against the wall and hope that death would come quickly. The creature was like nothing she had ever seen. It had smooth skin instead of plates. It had only 2 eyes instead of 4. It moved slowly, carefully, as if it was trying not to scare her, but was scared anyway. She had learned that the universe was cruel. She had learned that no one helped the weak. The creature made sounds with its mouth. Words, perhaps, but her translation implant was damaged and could not process them properly. She heard only fragments, broken pieces of meaning that made no sense. Then the creature did something strange. It put away its weapon. It held up its empty hands and moved closer. Hissed again, but the creature did not stop. It knelt down in front of her, close enough to touch. Up close she could see its face. It had two eyes that were dark brown like the color of wood. Its skin was light tan, covered in small imperfections and marks. Its face was arranged in a way that seemed soft, not threatening. If she had to guess its emotion, she would say it looked sad. The creature pulled out a small device and pointed it at her. For a moment, she thought it was a weapon and her heart pounded with fear, but nothing happened. The creature just looked at the device and made more sounds. Its voice was low and gentle. Then the creature stood up and walked away. Watched it leave the cargo hold. She heard its footsteps fade down the corridor. She waited for something terrible to happen. She waited for other creatures to come, for the ship to be stripped, for her to be killed or captured. But the creature came back alone. It held something in its hands, a small package wrapped in silver material. The creature sat down in front of her again, cross-legged on the floor. It opened the package carefully and smelled something wonderful. Food. Her antennae rose without her permission. Her mouth opened. Every cell in her starving body screamed for what the creature was holding. It was some kind of paste, thick and brown, not like anything she had ever eaten. But her body did not care. Her body wanted it more than anything in the world. The creature scooped some of the paste onto its finger and brought it to its own mouth. It ate slowly, showing her that the food was safe. Then it held the package out toward her. Did not understand. Among her people, food was never shared with those who could not work. Food was a resource to be protected, not given away. This creature did not know her. This creature owed her nothing. Why would it give her food? The creature made more sounds and pushed the package closer. It mimed eating with its hands, pointing at her, then at the food. The meaning was clear even without words. For you, take it, eat. Its claws trembled as she reached out. She expected the creature to pull the food away, to laugh at her, to reveal that this was all a cruel joke. But the creature just sat there, watching with those soft brown eyes. She took the package, she brought it to her mouth, she ate. The paste was thick and strange, designed for a biology very different from her own, but her starving body accepted anything. The nutrients spread through her system like fire, warming her from the inside. Her heart beat faster, her eyes grew brighter. Energy returned to her limbs for the first time in weeks. Ate everything in the package. She licked the wrapper clean. When it was gone, she looked up at the creature with something new in her eyes. Wonder, confusion, the beginning of gratitude. The creature smiled. It was a strange expression, a curving of the mouth that showed small white teeth, but somehow knew it was not a threat. Somehow she knew it meant something good. The creature spoke again. This time her damaged translator caught one word clearly. Friend. Then the creature stood up. It touched its chest with one hand, a gesture that might have been a greeting or a farewell, and then it walked away, back down the corridor toward its own ship. Sat in the cargo hold, the empty food wrapper still in her claws. Her mind was spinning with questions. Who was this creature? Why had it helped her? What kind of species gave away its food to strangers? As her strength slowly returned, she began to think about what had just happened. The creature had scanned her with a medical device. It had seen how sick she was. It had understood that she was dying, and then it had given her food. But the creature had been alone. It had come from a small ship, barely big enough for one. If it was traveling through the outer margins alone, it probably did not have much food to spare. That package might have been. His eyes went wide. That package might have been its only food. She pushed herself to her feet. Her legs were shaky, but they held. She walked to the cargo hold door and looked down the corridor. She could see light coming from the direction of the airlock. The creature was still here. It had not left yet. She had to know. She had to understand. Moved slowly through the freighter, following the light. Her claws clicked against the metal floor. Her four eyes adjusted to the darkness. When she reached the airlock, she saw the creature's ship connected to the freighter. It was small and damaged, barely holding together. She stepped into the connecting tunnel and crawled toward the other ship. The creature had left the door open. Maybe it had not expected her to follow. Maybe it did not care. The inside of the ship was tiny. There was a pilot's chair, some controls, and a small living space in the back. The creature was sitting in the pilot's chair, strapping itself in. It looked tired. Its movements were slow and heavy. Looked around the ship. She saw the storage compartments. She saw the empty wrapper from the food package thrown into a disposal bin, and she saw that there was no more food anywhere. The creature had given her everything it had. Stood in the doorway of the little ship, staring at the back of the creature's head. She did not understand. She could not understand. Her whole life she had been taught that the weak were left behind, that resources went to the strong, that sacrifice for strangers was foolish and wrong. But this creature had sacrificed for her. This creature had chosen to starve so that she could live. Why? The creature's head drooped. Its eyes closed, watched as its breathing slowed and its body went limp. It was falling asleep, or perhaps falling into something worse. Without food, its body was starting to shut down, just as hers had done. The creature had saved her life, and now, because of that choice, it was going to die. Felt something crack open inside her chest, something that had been frozen since the day her people abandoned her. She did not have a word for this feeling. Her language did not include concepts like this, but she felt it anyway, burning in her heart like a new kind of fire. She would not let this creature die. She would not let its sacrifice be for nothing. She would find a way to save it, even if she did not know how. The creature was dying, could see it clearly now. Its breathing was shallow. Its skin had turned a paler color. Its body was slumped in the pilot's chair like a puppet with cut strings. She did not know what species this was. She did not know its biology or its needs, but she knew death when she saw it, and she knew that she could not let this creature die. Moved through the small ship, searching for anything that might help. Her claws opened storage compartments and pulled out equipment. Most of it she did not recognize. Strange tools, unfamiliar devices, objects with no clear purpose. Then she found the medical kit. The box was marked with symbols that her translator could not read, but the image on the front was clear. A cross symbol, colored red, universal language for medical supplies. She opened the kit and spread the contents on the floor. Bandages, syringes, small bottles of liquid, tubes and wires and things she had never seen before. At the bottom of the kit was a flat device with a glowing screen. The device activated when she touched it. A voice came from it, speaking in the creature's language. Her damaged translator struggled to keep up, catching only pieces of what was said. Medical assistance, activated state, nature, emergency. Touched the screen again. Images appeared, showing diagrams of the creature's body. She saw its internal structure, its organs, its blood system. The device was some kind of medical guide, designed to help with emergencies. She pointed the device at the unconscious creature and pressed a button. The screen changed, showing new information. Even with her broken translator, she could understand the basics. The creature's energy was too low. Its body was consuming itself to stay alive. It needed nutrients. It needed them soon. Searched through the medical supplies again. She found a bag of clear liquid attached to a long tube with a needle at the end. The device showed her an image of this bag connected to a creature's arm. The liquid went directly into the blood. She had seen similar technology among her own people. Nutrient delivery for the sick, emergency feeding for those who could not eat. If she could connect this to the creature, it might survive long enough to reach safety. But she did not know how to do it. She had never used this kind of equipment, and if she made a mistake, she might kill the creature instead of saving it. Looked at the sleeping figure in the chair. She thought about what it had done for her. It had found her dying in the dark. It had given her its only food. It had walked away expecting to die so that she could live. Among her people, such an act would be considered insane. Resources were precious. Survival was everything. No one would ever sacrifice themselves for a stranger, especially not a stranger of a different species. But this creature had done it anyway, without hesitation, without expectation of reward. Made her decision. She would not let fear stop her. She would not let ignorance stop her. She would learn what she needed to learn. She would try as many times as necessary. And she would save this creature's life, or she would die trying. She picked up the medical device and began to study. The hours passed slowly, worked with desperate focus, using the device to guide her. The creature's language was strange, but the images were clear enough. She learned how to read the vital signs. She learned how to find the blood vessels in the creature's arm. She learned how to insert the needle without causing damage. She failed many times. Her claws were designed for gripping and climbing, not for delicate medical work. The first needle broke when she pressed too hard. The second went into the wrong place and she had to pull it out. By the third attempt, her claws were shaking with exhaustion and fear. But she did not stop. On the fourth attempt, she succeeded. The needle slid into the creature's arm and the clear liquid began to flow. Watched the vital signs on the medical device. Slowly, very slowly, the numbers began to improve. She let out a breath she did not know she had been holding. The creature was still unconscious, but it was no longer dying. The nutrient liquid was giving its body what it needed to survive. It would wake up. It would live. Found a thermal blanket in one of the storage compartments. She wrapped it around the creature, trying to keep it warm. Then she sat down on the floor beside the pilot's chair and waited. She had never stayed awake for so long. Her body screamed for rest, but she could not sleep. She had to watch the vital signs. She had to make sure the creature did not get worse. As she waited, she thought about her life. She thought about her people and their cold logic. She thought about the elders who had abandoned her without a second thought. She thought about her mother, who had stood silent while they sealed her in the cargo hold. And she thought about this stranger, this creature from another world, who had given her everything for no reason at all. Her people would say that the creature was foolish. They would say that its sacrifice was wasted, that it should have kept the food for itself. They would say that helping the weak was a path to death, but was alive because of that foolishness. And now the creature would live because she had learned from its example. Maybe her people were wrong. Maybe kindness was not weakness. Maybe sacrifice was not stupidity. Maybe there was something more important than survival. The creature stirred. Its eyes moved beneath closed lids. Its breathing changed, becoming deeper and stronger. Leaned forward, watching. The creature's eyes opened slowly. They were unfocused at first, confused. Then they found her face. The creature tried to speak, but its voice came out as a whisper. Its translator caught fragments of words. "You saved me." Did not know how to respond. Her translator could not help her speak the creature's language, only understand it. But she remembered the word it had used before, the word it had called her when it gave her its food. She opened her mouth and forced the strange sounds out as best she could. "Friend." The creature smiled. It was that same expression from before, the curving of the mouth that meant something good. Its eyes were wet, leaking clear liquid. Did not know what this meant, but she thought it might be a kind of emotion. The creature lifted its hand slowly and reached toward her. Did not pull away. She let the creature touch her claw, wrapping its soft fingers around her hard ones. They stayed like that for a long moment, two strangers from different worlds, connected by something that had no name. Then the creature closed its eyes and slept. Real sleep this time, not the sleep of dying, healing sleep. Sat beside it, holding its hand, and watched the stars drift past the window. Somewhere out there, her people were traveling without her. Somewhere out there, the elders were congratulating themselves on their wise decision. They thought they had left her to die. They thought they would never see her again. They were wrong. They reached port together. The station was a massive structure floating in space, home to thousands of beings from dozens of species. When Cole's damaged ship limped into the docking bay, the station workers did not know what to expect. They found a half-starved human soldier and a young female, both weak but alive, both refusing to leave each other's side. The story spread quickly. In places like port, strange stories were common, but this one was different. A human had given his only food to an alien stranger. That alien had then saved his life in return. Two beings who had never met, who shared no language or culture, had chosen each other over themselves. People talked, people whispered, people did not quite believe it. Spent 2 weeks in the station's medical center, recovering his strength, stayed with him every day. She learned to use a proper translation device, one that worked much better than her damaged implant. Slowly, painfully, they began to understand each other. Told her about Earth. He told her about the water wars and the ruined cities. He told her about growing up hungry, about his mother's sacrifices, about the stranger who had given him a meal bar and changed his life. He told her that humans had a saying, pay it forward. When someone helps you, you help someone else. The kindness spreads like ripples in water. Told him about the... She told him about the hive and the cold logic of her people. She told him about being abandoned, about her mother's silence, about the elders who sealed her in the cargo hold. She told him that her people had no word for what he had done. Sacrifice for strangers did not exist in their language. Then maybe your language needs a new word, said. Thought about this for a long time. When was released from the medical center, he expected their paths to separate. He had to return to Earth and report to his commanders. She had to decide what to do with her life. They were from different worlds. There was no reason for them to stay together. But had no home anymore. Her people had thrown her away. She could not go back to them, and she did not want to. The cold logic that had ruled her life now seemed hollow and cruel. She had seen a different way to live. She had experienced kindness from a stranger, and she wanted to understand more. Let me come with you, she said too. Let me learn about your people. Looked at her for a long moment, then he smiled. I think Earth would like to meet you. The journey to human space took many weeks. Spent the time learning. She studied human history, human culture, human language. She read about their wars and their cruelty, their capacity for destruction. But she also read about their hospitals and their charities, their rescue teams and their volunteers. She read about humans who ran toward danger to save strangers. She read about people who gave away their money, their time, their lives for others. The survived by abandoning the weak. Humans survived by protecting them. It was such a simple difference, but it changed everything. When they arrived on Earth, became famous. She was the first to visit the human. Reporters wanted to interview her. Scientists wanted to study her. Politicians wanted to use her for their own purposes, but only wanted to tell her story. She stood before crowds of humans and spoke about what had happened to her. She spoke about being abandoned by her own kind. She spoke about the darkness of the cargo hold and the certainty of death. And she spoke about Cole, the human who had given her his only meal. I was taught that the weak are left behind, she said to the listening crowds. I was taught that sacrifice for strangers is foolish. I was taught that survival is all that matters. But your people showed me something different. Your people showed me that kindness is its own kind of strength. The years passed, stayed on Earth, learning and growing. She became a bridge between humans and other species. She traveled to distant stations and met with alien governments. Everywhere she went, she told her story. And people listened. The High Collective sent representatives to meet with her. They wanted to understand what had happened to their lost child. They wanted to know how she had survived. When told them the truth, they did not believe it at first. You are saying that a creature gave you its only food, the representative asked, knowing that it would die. Yes. Why would any being do such a thing? looked at the representative with her four glowing eyes. Because that is what humans do. They see suffering and they try to end it, not because it is logical, not because it benefits them, but because something in their nature cannot accept watching others die when they can help. The representative was silent for a long time. "This is a weakness," he finally said. "You would think so," replied. "My people have always thought so, but look at the galaxy. Look at which species has the most allies. Look at which species other beings trust. It is not the ones who abandon their weak. It is the ones who protect them." She leaned forward, her voice strong and clear. "In 300 years, every species in this galaxy will call humans their allies. Not because humans are the strongest but because when you are drowning, humans will jump in to save you. When you are starving, humans will give you their last meal. When you are abandoned in the dark, humans will come looking for you." The representative had no answer to this. Became the first ambassador to Earth. She built bridges between species that had never trusted each other. She taught the cold logic of her people that there was another way to survive. And everywhere she went, she carried the memory of a human soldier who had changed her life. Cole retired from the military and lived a quiet life. He never sought fame or recognition for what he had done. When people asked him about the story, he would shrug and say it was nothing special. He had just done what anyone would do. But he was wrong. What he did was not common. What he did was extraordinary, and it rippled outward across space and time, touching lives he would never know about. When died at the age of 87, his funeral was attended by beings from a dozen different species. Stood at the front, her plates now gray with age, her four eyes dim but still glowing. She had been his friend for over 50 years. She had watched him grow old, and now she had to say goodbye. She spoke the words that humans used for their dead, but she also spoke words in her own language, new words that had been created since her youth. Words for kindness without reward, words for sacrifice without calculation, words that her people had not needed before they met humans. On the wall behind her hung a simple plaque. It held the wrapper from a ration pack, preserved behind glass. Beneath it were words that had written herself. "Humanity is not defined by what we keep, but by what we give away." The stranger in Detroit was never found. Had looked for him for years, hopping to say thank you, hopping to return the kindness somehow. But the stranger had disappeared into the flow of history, anonymous and forgotten. But that is the nature of kindness. It does not ask to be remembered. It does not demand gratitude. It simply exists, one person reaching out to another, creating a chain that stretches across generations and species and stars. A stranger gave a hungry boy a meal bar. That boy became a man who gave a starving alien his only food. That alien became an ambassador who changed the relationship between species. And somewhere in the vast darkness of space, 1,000 years in the future, beings that do not yet exist will look at humans and remember. They will remember that when all seemed lost, when the universe seemed cold and empty, humanity reached out with open hands. They will remember that humans chose kindness over survival. And they will call us friends,